Piece chapter 563. Now, my respect for Sengoku's going up, okay? And a big part of the reason is war is psychological. And that's one of the things that he and Akainu understand. And what I really love about this chapter is the fact that you get this wild accusation that Whitebeard has sold out his men and, or excuse me, his allies. And the reason for it is he wants to have Ace and the Whitebeard pirates spared by the Navy. It's being broadcast all around the world. So even if it isn't true, and we know it isn't true by the end of the chapter, but the fact that it's being broadcast, that is a stain on Whitebeard's legacy. So you've already kind of dampered anything that he's been able to accomplish up to this point. So you've kind of ruined the reputation. Also, by introducing this doubt, you drive a momentary reaction out of everyone to where they start moving in different directions. And it's like this. When you're able to create chaos, you're able to divide and conquer. You know, one of the 48 laws of power is be a master of chaos. And that's what Sengoku is. He creates this chaos because when people are moving around with their heads cut off like that, it's easier to pick them apart. It's easier to position them in certain ways to where you'll be able to manipulate the outcome. And what I love about that is he understands that if the Whitebeard pirates are completely unified, it's going to make it really difficult to take them down. And by having Whitebeard have to address things in the manner that he did, it just sets him up for victory. At least it seems like it sets him up for it. And even these accusations make, Luffy just kind of turn a little bit, because this is after Luffy gets stabbed and he's going pops, and you got Ace, he's crying out, and even Crocodile gets caught up in it. But I like the fact that Crocodile says the man who defeated me wouldn't be this weakling before me right now. And you have Whitebeard, he kind of speaks out in his internal monologue, and he says, you sure don't mince your words. And he says something very interesting. And what stands out to me about this quote I'm about to paraphrase for you is it's more foreshadowing. So what we're seeing is he's saying, if I can help one pirate reach his destiny, then my life is complete. And he says, I can't be the strongest forever. And Oda incorporates that little flashback where, when we first get introduced to Whitebeard, he's got all these things hooked up to him. And when you see that, and then you have one of his men say his health is continuing to deteriorate, I do think that I was right in the last chapter when we saw Whitebeard get stabbed to end off the volume. I think that was Oda setting the groundwork for Whitebeard to be killed off, because he's even acknowledging that he can't be the strongest ever. But I like the fact that Whitebeard, he creates an opening and he says, if you want to flee, flee. But if you want to throw your lives away, follow me. It's a cry to action. And it reminds me of 300, where you have Leonidas and he's just looking up. And he knows that the Persians are about to go completely dry on him. Like, he knows that there's no way in hell that they're going to win. And yet, he's continuing on. And I don't think things are this dire, but I do think that there's a real sense of urgency. And I like how one of the things that he does before this is he scoops up one of his men that's accusing him, right? And he says, you fool, I love all of my sons equally. Who was it that, planted the seed of doubt in you? And we find out that it's Akainu, and Akainu's just, standing there saying, well, your men don't have to die, only Whitebeard has to die. And it's a very clever tactic. I like what I see there, and I also like how, while all this is going on, Sengoku has Aokiji go through and free some of the men. There's a bit of, again, deception going on here. So I like that. This is one of those chapters, it's a setup chapter, but at the same time, it's one of those chapters that dives into the human psyche. And I like how the emotional tension is being built up in this. When you end the last chapter in the way that you do, you're thinking this is going to be action-packed and there's going to be a lead into some huge fight. Or we're going to break away and see Crocodile or Luffy or Vine Cove or somebody getting into it. And instead, we get more character interactions. And that is really key when it comes to character development, because you have to look at character interactions, internal struggles, external struggles, how they all intertwine together, and that's what goes on here. Sure, this wasn't an action every chapter, but this was a character development chapter, and that's one thing that I am consistently, I wouldn't say blown away by, because I have read better, and I'm not talking manga, I'm just talking literature in general. So that's actually a compliment to Oda in that sense, that I am comparing them to some of the stuff I have on my bookshelf behind me. But I am consistently impressed with the fact that Oda kind of slows down a little bit and he pulls the scope away and says, let me kind of focus on some of these secondary characters. Let me kind of introduce some backstories. And too often in shonen, a lot of authors, okay, so let's try this again. Too often in shonens, a lot of times the authors will try to use these backstories as a way of giving the characters development. They overly rely on it. And what I like about this is, yes, that was done here, but this wasn't some new information given to us or whatnot. We actually get a little bit of information that is new from one of the men that's accusing, I believe his name is Squad, but he was accusing Whitebeard, and he says, you want to make Ace next king of the pirates. How dare you? You know that Gold Roger annihilated my crew. There's no way in hell I would have stood for this. You were laughing at me while I was being friends with Ace. I can't believe you did this. And it's pulling on the lore that we know. We know that Roger's crew is really powerful. We know Roger, king of the pirates, so he had to be good. Whitebeard's a fucking beast. And you have Roger, who's even stronger than him. So it makes sense. You also, it's a callback to the flashbacks that we got with Ace and just kind of seeing those interactions with the Whitebeard pirates. So I like how Oda's just kind of pulling back for different things without... And by not directly referencing, I mean the fact that we're not getting, you know, flashback panels, which will basically be reused at this point, because a lot of manga is done digitally, especially around the time that I think this chapter came out, like 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. I'm not too sure. You know, I'm reading this for the first time, so I don't know when, but I'm pretty sure when I looked at the copyright stuff on the beginning of the volume, I'm pretty sure it said 2010, 11. So if that's the case, you know, about mid-2000s, more manga was being done digitally. So you can take some of those old panels that you've done and just reinsert them to save time on the drawing. As you guys know, a lot of mangaka, they're on these very tight schedules. So doing stuff like that actually helps. That's also why they have the editors and the assistants. So a lesser writer would have done that, especially if it's getting close to crunch time. But so I like the fact that Oda continued to kind of give us new information on this. But what I'm really curious about is the fact that, so this really makes me wonder, is it possible that when he refers to, if I can only help one pirate reach his dream, if he's thinking about Luffy, because Luffy did say that it's not going to be you who becomes king of the pirates, it's going to be me, and Whitebeard does know that Luffy is the younger brother that Ace was talking about. So I'm wondering if this is the case, or if he's just thinking about Ace and saying, as one final act, I'm going to make sure I get you freed, and then it's, you know, your destiny at that point. So really interested to see where Oda's going to kind of take this going forward. But overall, this is a pretty good chapter. Like I said, not very action heavy, but it is a setup chapter. A lot of character development, a lot of good interactions with the characters, and you can tell it's going down in the next chapter. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video, guys. Have an awesome day.